I personally don't like persons to leave the law in such a way where persons have to interpret it, because you would have a subjective kind of view. But when it comes to children, I find you must be very plain and clear. So if you have like a list in the law of what is light work and then what is hazardous work, that would be able to assist parents, it would be able to assist persons who would like to employ children, because you remember you have like the vacation employment, yeah? So you would have exactly what children can do and what children can't do.
So the law itself is rather vague in terms of defining what child labor is.
Yes, it needs to be expanded some more.
But then that makes your job as the TTPS a lot more difficult.
Yes.
In dealing with. So then, what's the best way to approach this situation? Whom are the various units or other committees or boards or organizations that need to be a part of this effort?
Well, you see, the committee that is sitting now, that's a multi-sectoral committee with persons from different areas, different ministries in Trinidad and Tobago dealing with children. So they are coming up with policy, right? That would assist a lot. And when it comes to responding now to what is taking place on the roadways, not necessarily all of the persons that are on the streets are children, because remember, someone may look like a child, but how do you tell that that person is a child? You need some form of identification and all of that. So when we are responding to something like that, the parents may be held accountable, yes? The children may have to be removed from that parent, because that parent not only allowing a child to be begging on the streets, because begging on the streets is also a criminal offense.
Really?
Yes. The police, we are actually, doing a soft approach by when we see these things and we are on patrol, we may warn persons, yes, you are committing offense, you need to desist from doing that. Yes? We are doing the softer approach. But if we really put the hard hand on, that child could be removed from that parent and taken into the care of Children Authority. So that is why in the JSC, I spoke about the multi-sectoral approach. We also see at some malls and some byways as well, where we have migrants.
Yes.
Migrants under trees. So we will try to speak with them and let them understand, here's what. You are committing an offense. Yes? And you need to move from here and you need to stop, right?
Oftentimes when the police take this soft approach, now I also understand why the police have adopted the soft approach. And as I think it's very pertinent to note the vague definition of child labor as well. But that being said, oftentimes do people actually listen to what the police are advising them? Do they desist? Or do they often continue the actions, whether it be begging or in some instances, and I have to be very careful with saying this now, child labor?
Well, yeah, and that is it. We have to be careful with the child labor, because where is the evidence to show that? Yes? Because in the last time we charged someone for that was in 2020. And that matter is still before the courts of Trinidad and Tobago. So it's not a prevalent report. I'm not saying it's not happening, but it's not a prevalent report that reaches the police at this time. So, we have to allow children to grow up in such a way that they are nurtured, so that they can become responsible and effective adults. Children should not be on the streets begging, because the thing about it is that besides it's being a criminal offense, it's unfair for that child to be out there to all the dangers on the roadway. Some drivers, depending on how you address, you may not even see that person. Yes?
And it's, as I said, this is my mind is a bit boggled right now at the fact that in having this conversation, in wanting to make an effort, though the police have adopted a soft approach, in some instances they don't have a choice, because the laws are just, as you mentioned.
Well, we have a choice, You
have a choice, but when I say you don't have a choice, in interpreting the law, it can always be difficult. And you gave a example of the last time somebody was charged with child labor, or the offense or allegations of child labor. So then, in having to adopt this soft approach, I do understand and I do recognize the difficulties in dealing with this. But you also mentioned something, that the reports are not something that you often see.
Yes.
Is that because there is perhaps a lack of understanding, education, or awareness to this situation?
I like your question, and that is it. We normalize that kind of behavior. We normalize begging, because persons will stop and purchase, and that is actually you aiding and abetting the commission of an offense. People will stop and purchase, because if people don't purchase, wouldn't they stop coming on the streets and handing out or selling whatever? Wouldn't they stop? But actually, the citizens are actually encouraging these persons to do these kind of things. Now, there's a Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Youth and
Development and National
my
Service.
God, they have excellent programs for youths.
They do.
They have excellent programs. And what we as well try to do whenever we, because we do, besides enforcing the law, we also do a lot of sensitization and outreach programs in communities to educate persons. So this is an excellent avenue for us to start having the conversation more, because we mention it, but it appears as though we're not hitting the heart and we're not hitting the head. So we'll have to emphasize it more now in our outreach program about child labor, about the laws concerning child labor, and let us see if we can eradicate that totally from Trinidad and Tobago.
Now, you mentioned something just now as well, where you said people selling, people purchasing. For clarification, vending on the highways and the streetways, that's illegal?
That's illegal. Pitching a stall, that's an offense. That's an offense as well. Yes, you are supposed to get permission from the corporation, you know, whether or not you can put up a stall to sell vegetables. You're supposed to get permission for all of that. And you're supposed to have your written permission if the police asks you to produce. Yes, especially if it's not your land and it's state land.
Yes, and this is where you said that we've normalized it, because people say it's part of our culture. Where you see the nutsman on the highway, or you purchase from the nutsman on the highway and whatnot. People say, well, that's a cultural thing now. So then this is something that is going to be very difficult to stop.
We are not even thinking about hygiene. You're not even looking for a food badge. Come on.
So you're often taking a chance with yourself.
You're taking a chance with your life.
So then even how does the police plan on adopting an approach to deal with cultural elements such as the nutsman on the highway?
Enforcing the law. Enforcement is the best. Enforcement would be deterrent. You understand? When we start to go and we arrest persons, yes, and take them before the courts and let it be printed in the media through our public affairs, that may be a deterrent to persons. Now, and persons need to seek other avenues. You know, go to the Ministry of Youth and Development, go to different, you know, trying to be entrepreneurs in a different way.
Now, the statistics, as you've also mentioned, don't necessarily exist because of other elements such as the vague laws and not much reporting coming in with respect to child labor. But is the lack of statistics an issue for the police in dealing with the situation?
No, I would not say that at all. You know, statistics really and truly is to allow you to know what is going on and let you be able to put like some remedy into the situation. But the police can act. We can act without the statistics. Yeah, we can.
So in that regard, what is it that the police really need to ensure that when they approach this situation, because as you said, it's a multi-sectoral approach, when they approach this situation, that we can do it in the best way possible, effectively, efficiently. What support would your units and other units within the TGPS need or require to deal with this? Well,
one of the things, like I explained before, if they are children, we would need the Children Authority to do their thing. The police, we would arrest and charge. Immigration, we have immigration, police officers who work immigration as well as immigration officers. We may have migrants as well. So whenever the police go in, it may be different things that are taking place, and different agencies would be responsible for the different issues that will be arising at that moment.
Now, I know that with respect to the Labour Ministry, they're hoping to produce a draft Labour policy by the year's end. Do you think it would be more prudent for that policy to be drafted first before taking a harder approach?
No, we still have our laws here that we can enforce, so we can go right ahead. The policies that they would be bringing now would be beneficial to the children as well as the public as well. Yes, but we need to sensitize the public, although ignorance of the law is no excuse. But we will still do the right thing by educating the public. We'll keep the conversation alive, and we will keep enforcing the laws.
And in enforcing the law, and as you said, sensitizing the public, education is important. What are for the offences that we've spoken about this morning, and the various offences, but usually what is the fine or the penalty involved if somebody is charged and found guilty?
If I don't recall, but don't quote me too wrong, I think it's about $25,000, and I feel it should be more.
You think so?
It should be more. Yes, it should be more, because I am saying a child is the most vulnerable, person in society, and following that is old elderly persons as well. So I am saying, in order for it to be a deterrent, the fine should be increased. Yeah.
As a firm belief.
Yeah.
Now, as we're getting to the end of this conversation, because like I said, I did follow the GSC, and a lot came out of that. So I'm glad that you're taking this time to speak to the public. Your message to the public in educating them and in making them aware of the situation, if you could speak to the public, what is it you really want them to know? What is the message you really want to drive home?
I would want parents to parent intentionally, and I would want for us to allow our children to be in an environment where they can grow up and be nurtured so that they can be responsible and effective adults in the future. Let a child be able to play. Let a child be able to study their books, go to school. Yes, because I could see if there's child labor, it means that that child will be absent from school. Yeah. Yes, let us allow our children to have that opportunity of education, and be able to grow up to be effective adults in society.
Certainly indeed, and I 100% agree with that message. Yeah. Well, Superintendent, thank you so very much for joining us on the program this morning, and for speaking to the observations made. And even mentioning that the fact that we need to clarify the law, but the police are going ahead in dealing with the situation. I hope it works out well for all.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we take a quick break here on AM Prime, and when we return, we'll get into some other conversations as it deals with parenting, as it deals with children, as it deals with education. We'll be right back after this.
Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
The Constitution doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia that's responsible for looting the country, and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Nah, you don't need to register nothing. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and, I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploiting the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we kind of have to stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
Fellow citizens,
I am Rajiv Dipti. In my business, I meet people from all walks of life. I hear their stories, from struggles to successes. The supreme law of our country that safeguards our individual rights and freedoms as we go about our daily lives is the Constitution. It was amended back in 1976, but life is different now. The Constitution can be altered through legislative reforms. So please submit your recommendations to constitutionalreform2024.gov.tt by the 15th of April. It's your future, your Constitution, your voice.
Coming soon to WESN.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'll ask is why.
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren. Coming soon to WESN.
So just before we took the last break, I mentioned that my next conversation focuses on the continued discussions about parents, about children, about teachers, speaking about the education system. And we are pleased once more to welcome to AM Prime Mr. Walter Stewart. He's the president of the Trinidad and Tobago National Council of Parent Teachers Associations. You know them by the acronym, the NPTA. Good morning, Mr. Stewart. Welcome back.
And good morning to you, Keaton, and of course, good morning to your viewership as well. We have on board as well Mrs. Jana Thomas, who is our national PRO. Good morning to you, Jana.
Hello, Ms. Thomas.
Good morning, Mr. Shaw. Good morning, Mr. Stewart. As always, it's a pleasure to be here.
Indeed, thank you so much. We've had a 2-week hiatus, if I should use that terminology, because 1 week we had Easter Monday holiday, and of course last Monday we had a little technical difficulty. So of course it's back to be back on after a 2-week break. This is our 4th installment, and of course we want to say thank you to WESN for having us on your AM Prime program. This is the 4th installment, and of course we plan to be here for another 4 weeks and continuing. And of course, kudos and commendations to WESN and its management for having the Trinidad and Tobago National Council of Parent Teacher Association on board and partnering with you in this special way. We really do appreciate it. Viewers, let me tell you that the school term 3 of school year 23-24 started last Monday. And of course, from all indications, all went smoothly without any major hitches. And of course, we want to commend the ministry, we want to commend our school supervisors, we want to commend our principals, teachers, and of course our parents for ensuring that last Monday and of course all of last week went indeed very smoothly. This is going to be a 13-week school term. It ends on the 5th of July, and of course this is probably one of the busiest terms in the calendar, in the school year calendar, because of course we have SBAs, we have CSEC, we have CAPE, of course we have the SCA results, which of course many students are looking forward to, and of course a series of graduations as students look forward to promotions, leaving the school life and environment. So that it is really going to be a hectic term, and of course the PTA is up and ready to be a part of and intimately involved in all the school activities that we are going to be having this particular term. Of course, I cannot continue without mentioning, of course, our deepest condolences to Amara's family. Of course, all of us are saddened by what took place last week. I mean, I'm still trying to get over the trauma and what took place there with that decapitation. And of course, it is a lesson to all of us, I'm sure. And of course, the PTA is going to be very vocal on issues like this. We want to be able to speak with fathers, of course, in particular with regards to their roles, responsibilities, and duties as fathers, and how fathers could be more intimately involved in the welfare and lives of their charges. That is so very important, because we as fathers have a critical role to play as we nurture care for and pay attention to our children. This morning, before the national PRO comes on, I want to just engage you for a short while in corporate involvement, stakeholder involvement, where corporate citizens of Trinidad and Tobago can play a role in the education sector. On the 20th of February, the Ministry of Education conducted an EduTalk seminar or session at the Trinidad Hilton, where they invited stakeholders and, of course, corporate Trinidad and Tobago to be a part of an Adopt a School program. Now, this is nothing new, because when we came into office in last year, November, that was a part of our 16-point plan, being able to engage corporate Trinidad and Tobago and being able to ensure that corporate Trinidad and Tobago can play a greater role. And I want to emphasize that, because they have been playing a role. Of course, the minister continuously emphasizes the role that corporate played during the pandemic by giving thousands of laptops and, of course, devices to our children who were at home doing online work. So, of course, corporate Trinidad and Tobago is nothing new. They have continued and will continue, I'm sure, to be a part of the education sector, the education system in Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, we applaud them, we commend them for that. But of course, there is always room for improvement, because there are so many facets of education that need to be enhanced, need to be improved. And of course, we cannot do it alone. There needs to be an all of society, all of corporate involvement approach in order to ensure that we can improve and enhance our education system. So, of course, the appeal is to corporate Trinidad and Tobago to be more involved and more engaging when we approach you with regards to assistance in education matters. So that Adopt a School program was an initiative by the ministry, and of course it was calling corporate Trinidad and Tobago to come on board and be a part of the education system. What does corporate Trinidad and Tobago need to do? One, of course, is to fund and sponsor. Many schools have many activities, from sports activities, cultural activities, many activities that they're involved in, and they will need corporate support. We want to encourage corporate Trinidad and Tobago to jump on board and be a part of that. And of course, we are pleased to let the corporate Trinidad and Tobago know that there are concessions, there are tax breaks, there are tax credits available to you if you invest your money into education sector in Trinidad and Tobago. There's also partnership and collaboration, which is what we are promulgating as well. Let us partner and collaborate with you, NPTA, Ministry of Education, schools, and of course corporate Trinidad and Tobago, in order to ensure that the product that we are churning out, the cohorts of children that we are churning out year after year, year on year, are going to be the best fit for your organization. We have made the point several times that there's what is called ROI, return on investment. This means that if you invest your dollars and cents into ensuring that the children that we have in our school system come out better and of course more productive, more engaging, more skillful, they are the ones who are going to be in your employment. I have to call some of the banks out, I have to call some of the insurance companies out, some of the restaurant sectors. Every corporate citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, once you invest money in the children of Trinidad and Tobago, the ultimate product, who is going to be your employee, is going to be better able to ensure that your bottom line, which of course is the profit, which of course is the dollar, is going to be a greater fit for you. So of course you have to come on board with us, partner and collaborate. And of course, thirdly, there's the internship arrangement. Many corporate institutions have invited on board, be it on-the-job programs or students who are now leaving school, to be a part of their internship program. And we want to endorse this, we want to encourage this, so that students can get a feel as to what corporate life, what work life is about, so that they can, of course, come into the corporate life, into the work life, better equipped and better able to deal with and be a part of your organization. So one, again, funding and sponsor. Corporate Trinidad and Tobago, we need your funds, we need your sponsorship, we need your partnership and your collaboration with us as members of the Trinidad and Tobago National Council of Parent Teacher Association. And thirdly, we need you to be involved in internship and inviting our students from time to time, come and let's see what the work life is all about. I'm pleased to say that in the month of February, we paid a visit to the Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce under the leadership of Mr. Curtis Williams. It is the first installment, as it were, of us putting our foot in the door of ensuring that all our chambers, through Trinidad and Tobago, all our business associations can be affiliated and can, of course, be a stakeholder with and collaborate with the National Parent-Teacher Association and be a part of our corporate involvement or corporate stakeholder engagement, all for the benefit of our children. I need to remind you that, of course, the motto of the National Council of Parent-Teacher Association is home and school united for the good of the child. So this is more than just parents making noise and advocating for the interests of their children. It is, of course, a whole of society approach towards ensuring that all our children are well catered for, are well cared for, and the nurturing and attention that they need, they are going to get it. Come on board, Trinidad and Tobago, and let us be a part of the stakeholder engagement involving corporate Trinidad and Tobago. My pleasure, therefore, to introduce no stranger to WASN. She has been on board from day one and continues to be an integral part of our presentations, our National Public Relations Officer, Mrs. Jana Thomas. Over to you, dear.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you again, Mr. Stewart. And I definitely do want to reiterate what was said in terms of corporate Trinidad really do have a responsibility in playing a role in what's happening in PTA. And when I say PTA, I mean Parent-Teacher Association. So over the past couple of weeks, we would have spent some time just to discuss what are the benefits of PTA. We would have spoken about some of the aspects in PTA by introducing our welfare officer, who went into some details of how the welfare is really assisting our schools. We would have heard from our education officer, who came in and showed what is the role of an education officer in school. And the reason why I really wanted to start with that this morning is we often hear about PTA, 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 but do we really know what is PTA? Do we really know the impact that PTA is currently making right now as we speak, even without corporate sponsorship in Trinidad and Tobago? And that's really what I wanted to talk to you about this morning. I think I do have a presentation that should be up on the screen very shortly.
Good.
Yeah, so we've got it up. It's almost all.
Okay, great. So restore, rebrand, rebuild. And we all know the challenges that PTA on a whole has faced over the years. There has been legal battles, which I'm happy to say that we are coming out of. There have been struggles within units themselves who are not able to really build the way they should. They're not communicating very well with their principals and vice versa. We are on a roll right now. We are on a mission to really reestablish that relationship that PTA has had. We want to restore what PTA is. We want to rebuild on the PTA and we want to rebrand. We want growth. Who is the PTA? What is the PTA? The National Parent Teachers Council was established over 64 years ago. That makes us the oldest and largest advocate for children in Trinidad and Tobago from all levels, unit levels, regional levels, national levels. We collaborate, even units, regions, and the national. We collaborate and engage partnerships with educational communities and policymakers. Each PTA, whether it be on any level, is currently right now working with influencers within their community to ensure that they get the best product, the best value, the best education, the best welfare, the best situation for their schools right now. We are a diverse network of families, of students, of teachers, of administrators, of community leaders, of principals who are volunteering to work together for the children of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is something that really we have to talk about. That is community working together with love, working together with heart for the center of our system, our children right now in Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, I have to mention that we are registered as an NGO with an Act of Parliament 18 of 1976. That makes us the only recognized body, legal recognized body by the Ministry of Education to represent parents and children. We encourage people to come on PTA. We encourage people to start PTAs. Yes, we know that we have PSGs and we have PTOs that are currently making excellent contributions towards schools. But we encourage you, come on board as a PTA. Why? Because we're giving you that voice. When we sit with Ministry of Education, when we hear your concerns, when it's coming from units, when it's coming from regions, we are sitting with the Ministry of Education, and we are taking your concerns and we are having your voice heard. Of course, we offer great resources to families and communities all across Trinidad and Tobago. In terms of our accomplishments, what has the NPTA done? Have we heard about what the NPTA has done? We have received over the years, over our 64 years in operation, national recognition from several prime ministers and presidents in the past. We would have sat on board memberships, put in key input into things like school nutrition, health policies, public transportation. NPTA sat on all of those boards while these policies were being made and continue to sit on those boards so that we can make valuable input for our children. We have offered several parental training over the years, and we will continue to offer parental training because we are recognizing what's happening. Parents these days are different from parents that we had. So we continue with our parenting training. We have established our own office where we can host our meetings, persons can come to us, persons can learn about the PTA. We even have the PTA land. We have over the years started homework study centers, and we would have launched after-school systems which would have really helped our organization, helped the children of Trinidad and Tobago. We want to talk about our leadership. We hear a lot about PTA, but what is PTA? Who is behind the PTA? PTA represents all of us, parents, the largest stakeholder in Trinidad and Tobago. As I said before, we have the unit levels, which are our schools within our PTAs within inside schools. Then we have our regional offices, which are aligned with the educational districts of Trinidad and Tobago. And then we have our national team, which is really a mix of persons who have been in the organization for several years, from the beginning, from the very first PTA meeting, like Mrs. Zina Ramatali, and even our president, Mr. Walter Stewart, who has served as president of 2 different regions. And then we have that length of experience with newer members who are currently sitting on units that are dealing with the issues firsthand every single day, who could bring those experiences to the national executive and really put policy in place to impact change. And that is the leadership that we are currently working now. So our structure is, as I would have mentioned before, we have what we consider the head, the national executive. It's run by officers from various regions. Then we have our arms, that's the regional executives. We have, as I said, there are different educational districts, all with their own regions. They're the ones that are going out to these schools, reaching them. They're the arms of the organization, bringing them in. And then, of course, we have the heart. Those are our unit executives that are in school every single day, hosting meetings, meeting with parents, navigating the system with challenges that they're having with their principals or school supervisors, working with them in a positive way in order to impact change. So this is our structure of the organization. We have the head, we have the heart, and then we have the hands. What are the benefits of PTA? So it might be a principal right now listening to this, or even a teacher, or even a parent, and you're wondering, why do I really need to have a PTA in school? Do I really need a PTA? We're doing fine. But I want to talk to you this morning about the 8 benefits that we have identified. There are many, many more. But this morning we want to talk about 8 benefits of having a PTA in school. And I'm saying PTA and not PSG or PTO, whereas those organizations, as I would have said before, make excellent impact. Apart from fundraising, we also focus on education. We also focus on welfare. Being a part of the PTA, having a PTA, benefit 1, amplify your voice. Sometimes you come into schools and there are policies, things that are happening, we don't really like it. When you join a PTA, just being on a unit PTA alone gives you the opportunity to see changes, things that are happening in your school, and it gives you the be voiced to make that change. Why? Because when you discuss it in your PTA meetings, it is now going to your regional office, and then it's going to the national office, and we are hearing you, and we are putting things in place to change it. One of the things that I'm very happy, just within our first 6 months of operation, is that a part of our 16-point plan, is to ensure that our regions currently have the power that they need in order to impact change. And we know this is a challenge that many persons, many units have said, persons, why am I going to a PTA meeting? What power do we really have to impact change? We sit in a meeting and we talk about what's really happening. The national executive is in the process. We've already met with about half of the region so far, of putting our regional executives in touch with the SS3s, ensuring that we have regular meetings so that when issues come up within their region, they have the support, they can really help our units. What else can the PTA, what other benefits? Benefit too. We harness volunteers. When you have a PTA in your school, the PTA has the opportunity to create a skill bank. They have the opportunity to find out, maybe this parent is an electrician. They can help us with the electrical problems we're having with our school. Another one is servicing AC. We may have one that is a caterer who can help us with our fundraising events, or even an event coordinator. So PTA gives you the power to harness volunteers with different skill banks for no other purpose than benefiting your school. Then there's part 3, there's point 3, fundraising. PTAs are self-funded. Principals, teachers, there's no need for you to have to put out funds to support your PTA. Your PTA is doing that on their own. They raise their funds on their own. They can collect dues. They can do so much fundraising activities, all for the support of the school. Benefit 4, it boosts kids' well-being. PTAs allow schools, allow their units to be able to focus on the well-being of their children within school. Things like physical education, nutrition, health. Sometimes administrators and teachers don't necessarily have all the support that they can do for them to do. A PTA will come in, they will start a program, they will do a physical activity and exercise program. They will, rally to make sure that they're serving healthy snacks within the school. PTA allows us to really boost the well-being of our children. And study shows in point 5 that children do better when their parents are involved. Successful kids equal involved parents. When you have a child, when you have parents that are the integral part of the school, they work better because it is home, it is school, it is parents united, working for the good of the student. Children perform better when there's a strong PTA. Just in my experience alone at my unit, for the past, which is a primary school, for the past 5 years, all of our top performers for PTA, for SEA, all were members of the PTA. Because you are involved parents. And then, of course, when you are involved parents, which brings me straight to point 6, is that you understand the challenge that's happening in school. So you're an involved parent now. So you're no longer just bickering. You now become a part of the change. You now become a part of the solution in helping to improve the school. Point 7, PTAs improve communication. PTAs can do newsletters. They can start social media, they can create WhatsApp group chats, they can support the school, support the teachers in sending out approved information coming from the school, and as well as making sure that you have a more informed parents body. And finally, and as I said, these are only 8 that we're covering today, is that you have a connection to approved programs. Being a part of the PTA means that you buy into our resources. All the PTA programs, all the connections that we have, all the stakeholders that we are coming on board with, you have the opportunity now to get access to that and bring that benefit back to your school. Let's talk about the PTA success. What is currently happening right now? And I started by saying that in Trinidad and Tobago right now, we have several PTAs who are currently performing and who are currently bringing value to their schools. Let's look at Rosie Boys RC School. During the pandemic, they would have raised $200,000 in order to refurbish their bathroom. Right? So we're on from PTA success now, and we're definitely going into the schools. They promote things like healthy body, aerobics classes, Food Friday initiatives that they currently have going on in their school. They would have donated tables to their library of their school, computer programs to the school. They would have hosted etiquette training. They would have into the school invited the Etiquette Foundation of Trinidad and Tobago. They've started anti-bullying campaigns. They were instrumental in the Black Ribbon Initiative. I don't know if you would have remembered, just a few weeks ago, we lost a student in the East Port of Spain district, and they would have started the Black Ribbon Initiative, really rallying schools together in Port of Spain. They would have partnered with Scouts. They offer very many fun-filled events. The next slide just kind of shows some pictures on some of the activities that they have done. Moving on from Rosary Boys, we also have South Arapuch PTA. They have already established communication with MPs, with councillors and stakeholders within their community. They've already improved school safety. They've started a suggestion box, really getting their feedback from their parents. They would have supported the cricket and the culture by repairing the cricket facilities. They support carnival fundraisers. They would have done many different opportunities to boost the parental involvement within their school. They would, because of their involvement in sports, their students now are excelling within that school. They support SCA preparations. They promote cultural diversity with celebrations like Easter, Pagua. And of course, the next slide is just pictures coming from them, so we can just kind of see. I don't want to take up too much time with this part, but just to show you, these are the faces of the organization. This is the heart of the organization. This is the work that is happening right now. We also have Gasparillo Secondary PTA. They collaborated with 4 and 5 graduation committee for fundraising. And these are things that are happening every day with PTAs in school. We have a lot of graduations that are coming up now with SCA, with the Standard 5. The PTAs are working with their schools to be able to support those graduation ceremonies. They organize fundraisers. They use the funds that they are making for the purpose of school beautification. Right? They would have done some work among the school in terms of replacing the sign, and repainted the school entrance. Children want to come to school knowing that they're walking into an environment that is going to give them some sort of pride. PTAs are right now putting that work in volunteer to be able to refresh the buildings of their school. Moving on from Gasparillo Secondary, we also have St. Mary's Mokarapo Boys PTA. They issue care hampers to their schools. They are offering prizes right now to encourage parents to come to their PTA meetings. They recently hosted their Achievement Day, rewarding their stakeholders, rewarding their children for their success, even acknowledging teachers that are working along with them. They would have initiated the Read Aloud program in Port of Spain, and that program has moved from their school every Wednesday night, from their school to their region, and now we have persons from all over the nation joining in on a Wednesday night for the children to read. Of course, they support many of their school events, their cultural events. One of their more notable projects was that whenever we have a school feeding program, and sometimes it's not available, maybe within the first or the last few days of the term, they would raise funds and use the funds from that to be able to give free breakfast or give free lunch to the children who would usually be on that program. Moving on to St. Catherine's Girls Anglican School, they have already instituted their Parental Skills Bank. They have already started forming partnerships within their school. They've already done their school refurbishment. They have plans to offer touchless water systems, water fountains within their school, because they understand children need to be hydrated. They're running up and down in school. They partner with various schools within their community to ensure that they're really offering value to their children and piggybacking off of the successes of one another. Then we have Tranquility Government PTA, a new PTA, very excited about the work that they are doing. Moving on from that, we have Macaulay Government Primary School. They have currently raising funds to do school beautification programs. They have instituted a laminating machine in school so that they could really sell things like bookmarks with influential or positive words in the morning to the children. They have celebrated children's schools with snack boxes for Teachers' Day, giving things like plants and fruits. They have hosted Christmas dinners, art competition, Mother's Day concert, Father's Day plaques, really giving and showing appreciation to parents who are currently supporting the school. We have St. Rose's RC School. They are currently right now facing challenges where the children are not even hosted in school. Some of them are in other schools in Port of Spain because the building is so dilapidated. The ministry is currently working on a solution for them, but that is not stopping the PTA from doing what they need to do. They are still improving communication. They attend all meetings. They are supporting the graduation of the Standard 5 students. They've repaired some of the school furniture. They've repainted classrooms. They would have supported very, very recently the Black Ribbon Initiative. And as I said, this is just a portion of what our PTAs are doing in Trinidad and Tobago. You may be asking now, my God, PTAs are doing all of that? How do we start a PTA? Are we ready to make that difference? Principals, are you ready to work with a PTA? Maybe you have been thinking about, I want to start a PTA. How do I do it? How do I get my parents involved? Or maybe you're a parent and you're listening to us this morning and you want to know, how do I start? Where do I begin? It only starts with one person. So if you're a principal, feel free. You can reach out to the NPTA. We will put you in contact with the regional executive from your region, from your district. They will come into you, they will talk to you. You can call a general meeting. We will come tell you the benefits of the PTA. We will conduct an election, but it starts just with one phone call. So our information is pinned. I think our email is available. You can reach us on our social media. We will come in, we will give you the entire process. How can you help? As Mr. President was saying earlier this morning, we need corporate sponsorship. Schools are doing very well, but there are some schools that need help. So corporate Trinidad and Tobago, when you get those calls, when you get those letters, we're asking that you please help. Say yes, reach out to a school. Let's really fulfill our responsibility as corporate Trinidad and Tobago. So that's it for me. I'm now going to hand you back over to Mr. President. Up on the screen now, you can see our contact information.
Well, thank you so much, our national PRO, for that insightful presentation. Of course, very comprehensive and very thorough. We really want to thank you for that. I cannot end the session today without inviting all of Trinidad and Tobago. Let's go to Tobago. And of course, you'll be hearing much more about that. May 25th is our annual mid-year convention in Tobago. We want you to get on board. You saw the contact numbers, you saw the email address. We are going to reach out to all our regions, as many schools as possible. Thank you very much with regards to contacting us to be a part of this mid-year convention. Let's take Tobago by storm. Is the Isle of Paradise? Yes, and of course we want to be in the Paradise Island over the weekend of May 25th for our mid-year convention, Restore, Rebuild, and Rebrand. Thank you very much, Keaton. See you guys next week. Thank you so much, Mrs. Thomas, for your insightful presentation again.
Certainly indeed. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Stewart, for the NPTA's time once more and all the efforts. Thank you very much, Ms. Thomas, for your presentation this morning. I think it's most pleasing to learn of some of these success stories because as you know, we're advocating for people to establish PTAs within their schools, and thus far we've spoken about the benefits, but having the ability to speak about success stories as examples is very much prudent to the cause. Sure. So thank you very much, Ms. Thomas, for your presentation indeed, and of course to the NPTA for their time. And on the part of WSN, it's really our pleasure that we can partner with the NPTA because the message is simple. I think Ms. Thomas said it herself. A good education needs parental involvement. Right. Indeed. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and to the rest of the NPTA. Folks, we take a break here on AM Prime. We'll continue our conversations right after these messages.
The home of Caribbean content is growing and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society.
as we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation. Contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fanzone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have 2. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the
not no.
Let's go to the last part.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God. So we kind of at a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI. Worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. In commemoration of World Autism Day, Independent Senator Dr. Paul Richards, addressing a group of people with autism, spoke to the difficulties and the discrimination that those with disability face in Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, I quote from him during his speech. He says, "In societies where there are accommodations and support systems, the impact felt by persons with disabilities are not as profound because there are laws that protect the rights of persons with disabilities." End quote. Well, let's have a conversation on this particular issue as I'm joined by Independent Senator Dr. Paul Richards. Good morning, sir, and welcome to AM Prime.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning to you and your audience. Appreciate being here.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Indeed, Dr. Richards, you've described the current environment, the climate of Trinidad and Tobago as discriminatory. If you would please just expand a bit more on what you mean exactly in describing the environment as discriminatory.
Well, once again, thanks for having me. In an environment like Trinidad and Tobago, where there are no laws to protect the rights of persons with disabilities, no specific disability-related laws. We do have the Equal Opportunities Act, which is supposed to deal with discrimination across a swath of issues. But in countries where there are disability-specific laws, persons with disabilities in any of the 13 categories at any degree of the disabilities are protected in the areas including healthcare provision, education, transportation, access to social and cultural lives, and several other areas in life, access to information because they need assistive technology, and several other areas of life that we, or typically presenting people, do not have difficulties in accessing or in having access to in those areas. So you'd find that we take for granted our able-bodiedness very often. We take for granted the difficulties persons with disabilities, families who are taking care of persons or children with disabilities face on a daily basis, getting around, getting access to the kind of education they need, because it's not the same education. There's a difference between equality and equity. Some people need more support. There are specific types of healthcare interventions that are not always available to persons with disabilities. Moving around in a recent parliamentary town hall series, but many of those issues are coming to light. So while it may not be over discrimination all the time, because there's a lack of accommodation support and a lack of the disability-specific laws, as is seen in Guyana, as is evident in Guyana, in Jamaica, in the Bahamas, the US and the UK, we find the persons are not accessing services that ordinary citizens or typically presenting citizens have access to and enjoy.
Mm-hmm. I think it's most interesting that you raised that point, because even in the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, the infrastructure is not even adequately adapted to deal with individuals or grant access to individuals whom are disabled. So this is even within the own Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. But Dr. Richards, someone might say, all right, I take your point. We just need to create a policy, or we need to create policies. But do you think that is the answer to this situation? Is creating a policy enough?
Policies are not enough. Policies can be interpreted differently by different people. Policies can change from minister to minister, from administration to administration. Laws are what cements the rights of people with disabilities, or any rights that people have generally. And that is the issue here, because, and to your point about the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, yes, and many other government buildings do not have access and facilities to persons with disabilities, even the bathroom facilities, even the entrance areas, even the pavement, having a ramp so that a person with a wheelchair can get up. But to the Minister of Social Development and Family Services credit, Minister Donna Cox, she has created, for the first time that I know about in this country, a draft disability law that she has out for consultation.
Yes.
And
yes.
I saw them turn the sod for a building. Recently, the new headquarters to the Ministry of Social Development, which is supposed to have full disability access. So we're making incremental steps in the right direction, but we are behind the curve when it comes to many other jurisdictions in the region.
Now, in respect to, and you mentioned it earlier, I mean, we do have laws that do exist. We do have an Equal Opportunities Commission, for example, and I like that how you pointed out there's a difference between equity and equality. We are also a signatory to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, but us being signatories to all these wonderful things, you just also expressed that we are far behind on the curve. What do you think it is going to take, or how much effort is necessary to actually get to a point where we can say that our society is getting more and more involved and more open and equal for all?
Well, the first thing we have to do is pass the laws. I'm very adamant about that, and I'm hoping that the bill that Minister Cox has out for consultation or comes to the Parliament floor sooner than later so that it can be debated and passed. Because one of the stickling points in the law is that it involves private property, which is a constitutionally enshrined right, which will make demands on persons who have in the state sector, buildings be accommodated for persons with disabilities, but also it will impact persons who own private buildings, private commercial buildings or private industrial buildings. They would have to retrofit those buildings to ensure that there's accommodation for persons with disabilities. And we have to really have a cultural and psychological mind shift in Trinidad and Tobago, and not think that, well, disabilities is that group of people, it doesn't affect me. Because if you and I live long enough, and I'm sure you're a lot younger than I am, we will all get to the point where we are infirmed in some way. We have some sort of mobility issue, we have sight issues, we have hearing issues. Wouldn't we want systems in place, supports and accommodations, so that we can live a full life when that time comes? Or even if you, God forbid, get into an accident, you lose a limb, you develop some sort of degenerative neurological disorder, wouldn't you like this society to have a law that protects your rights and ensures that you have the support and accommodation that you need? I think the answer would be yes.
I'd like to point out a statistic in respect to the University of the West Indies and the Minister of Social Development, as well as the CSO. It noted that there are roughly 52,000, this is a report 1 year ago, 52,244 persons with disabilities, representing approximately 3.93% of our population here in Trinidad and Tobago. But it's also noted in that report that the pandemic actually made individuals with disabilities more vulnerable, expressing the need to focus on the financial gap that such individuals face. Have you seen efforts to address such issues? I know you mentioned that the drafted law should be brought on later this year, but in the meantime, even with respect to financial assistance, do you suppose that enough is being done to meet the needs of individuals with disabilities?
Well, you know, this issue of financial grants. A grant is a temporary, optional disbursement from the state to assist a person with disability. It's not a right. It is almost like a handout, which is, I'm sure it's appreciated by the persons who receive it. But we need to move away from the charity model and move to the rights model where persons with disabilities are concerned. Because that charity model can shift from time to time as opposed to a rights model where the state has a legal responsibility to provide for persons with disabilities.
But in doing so, an argument has been brought forward that even and you phrased it quite well, that grants are not necessarily rights, but there is a right for the individuals with disabilities. But individuals with disabilities, the grants that they receive on a monthly basis, do you suppose that that is just not allowing them to access opportunity that is necessary? In fact, it's probably allowing them to remain in poverty.
Well, I don't know that all persons with disability live in poverty, to start. And going back to your statistic you quoted earlier on, I think that's a gross underestimation. Generally, around the globe, every society has about 13 to 15% of the population with some kind of disability. even do it moderate, mild, it could be a learning disability. We're seeing issues in schools with students who are scoring under 50% or 30% at the SEA. So I think 3.5% is a gross underestimation. But I also don't think that a grant is the solution. A grant is a temporary measure until a law can be passed so that the state has to provide transport access, specific healthcare services, specific educational accommodations, infrastructural accommodations, technological accommodations for access to information. Information is a right. And we've signed on to, as you said earlier on, the treaties, the UN Convention to the Rights of the Person with Disability, which has specific requirements for any country, including passing disability-specific laws. So I think if we've signed on to the convention and we ratify the treaties, we need to take the next step and pass the laws.
Certainly indeed. So let me move on now to existing infrastructures that are in place. So one such is, and you raised it earlier, and that is the Equal Opportunities Commission and the Equal Opportunities Act. Dr. Bipaya Pare of the University of the West Indies conducted research, and she noted that between 2010 and 2021, there were 105 complaints made by people with disabilities to the Tribunal of the Equal Opportunities Commission. And she noted that only 30% actually made it or was referred for conciliation by the tribunal. Cases were closed for several reasons, such as errors or involvements. Some cases fell outside of the jurisdiction. In fact, she was saying that no discrimination took place many a times. That was just how it ended. It never actually got to tribunal stage, it just ended. The argument is the Equal Opportunities Commission actually does not support equal opportunity as it focuses on discrimination. So is there a need for the existing infrastructures and organizations themselves to perhaps have a review of what their mandate is?
Well, I think you've made the case for me in your missive in describing what the professor indicated in her article, that the Equal Opportunities Act and Tribunal are woefully inadequate when it comes to dealing with discriminatory issues or access issues or any of the surrounding parallel issues that deal with persons with disabilities in the country. And that's why best practice around the world and as advised by as mandated by the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, that law, disability-specific law, is the way to go, and not have an Equal Opportunities Tribunal Act that literally almost puts the person with a disability of having to prove that they've been discriminated against, as opposed to having a right to support. So I think your delivery on the missive is evidence enough that it's not working adequately for persons with disabilities, the Act and the Tribunal.
Well, there's also another part of this, Dr. Richards, and that is the Equal Opportunities Act addresses offensive behavior. Disability under the Act is actually not a protected status. So there's a need for that adjustment as well.
Doesn't that tell you a lot?
That is, I find that incredible reading the report on the part of Dr. Barry. But
in 2024, imagine that.
And that is where I come to my next question. We are in 2024 indeed, and we are pushing very hard to reach the status as a developed nation. Do you think in this realm that we're in right now, as a developing nation, that in order for us to even reach to the heights of the status of a developed nation, we must include, or we must have these rights enshrined? We must have protection for those with disabilities. Could we call ourselves a developed nation without such in place?
I don't think so, because then we're not an inclusive society. We're not. Our anthem wonderfully states, every creed and race finds an equal place. Is every creed and race finding an equal place in Trinidad and Tobago? The answer is no.
And my final question to you, do you think that the laws brought forward by the minister, which hopefully will come to pass later this year, would that address all the issues at present, or is it just a start?
It's just a start. What I've seen of the draft of the bill, it's a good foundation, but I also have the honor to chair a committee of the Human Rights Group of the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago with several disability community stakeholders and attorneys from the Law Association. We have had two consultations so far, including the disability community, in drafting a parallel bill that seeks to present best practice to the Parliament as a comparative when that bill comes to Parliament, so that we can debate and argue for the best possible outcome for a law that protects the rights of persons with disabilities. Would it be the panacea? No. But it's a great foundation and start for persons with disabilities to have some legal rights enshrined in our Constitution.
Indeed. Dr. Richards, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I know we tried to have this conversation last week and unfortunately it didn't work out as planned, but thank you very much for your time as always.
Thank you so much for having me and giving us the opportunity to talk about this very important issue. Thank you so much to you and your team.
Certainly indeed. Thank you very much. All the very best to you.
Same to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Independent Senator Dr. Paul Richards joining me on the program this morning, and Dr. Richards said it best. Equality and equity are two completely different things. If we are to even reach the heights of the status of a developed nation, we must also ensure that we protect those with disabilities and ensure that all is in place, that they may have the opportunity to give them a life, a better life, a life of greater things to come on their part. And it's interesting, the Equal Opportunities Act doesn't even define or have disabilities as a protected status. So that is something really that also has to be looked at. We take a quick break here on AM Prime. One reads in while we wrap things up for this morning. We'll be right back after this.
My name is Kama Mirage. As a lifelong entrepreneur, I often share the benefit of my experience with our young innovators and small businesses. Just as I strive to guide others, our Constitution must also foster an environment for citizens to thrive. This begins with education catering to diverse learning styles and extends to establishing frameworks that support new enterprise. But are we doing enough? Constitutional reform needs your input by 15 April at constitutionalreform2024.gov.tt. It's your future, your constitution, your voice.
Coming soon to WESN.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'll ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren. Coming soon to WESN.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available. The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the Home Store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Chaguanas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop, 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's. WESN, 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook. Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lips?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
And I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the game.
no.
Let's go to the last part.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning. You're seeing a big smile on my face because sometimes I wonder if the best episodes of AM Prime are the ones that are actually off air, the conversations between my director and I. And I think he should be a guest on the program sometime. So take the hint, my friend. You'll be on very soon on AM Prime. But for this particular episode, we are bidding farewell. Thank you very much to my guest for joining me this morning, Superintendent Claire Guy-Lane, as we spoke about child labor here in TNT. Child labor is the definition, according to the laws, rather vague, and that needs to be addressed in order to help the police with their fight against this particular issue, trying to deal with this issue, although Superintendent did mention that the police still have certain laws, privileges and powers in place to make a start. So we wish them all the best in respect to that. But as I mentioned, it's interesting because vending on the roadways, on the streetways are illegal in Trinidad and Tobago. But culturally, people will argue that the nuts man, or buying from the nuts man, you do that at least once in your life. Anyway, we also thank very much the NPTA for joining us once more, as not only did they express their desire to help you establish a PTA within your school, but they also mentioned success stories this morning and how a PTA does a lot more than simply fundraising. And I like the words of Ms. Janet Thomas, where she's mentioned that education or good education needs parenting involved. And finally, my last guest, Independent Senator Dr. Paul Richards, as we welcome him to speak about the discriminatory environment that we live in, particularly to those who suffer with disabilities and the need to address that. But as he mentioned, there is some hope, there is some positivity down the road ahead as the draft legislation brought forward by Minister Donna Cox is due to be read, hopefully later this year. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Thank you very much. I'm Keaton Shaw, wishing you a safe day. Had a good one, and we do expect some rain a bit later on. We had some early this morning, but we look forward to that reprieve from the scorcher that we faced for the last few weeks. But be safe, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white collar crime.